We really do not believe in ourselves. We say, hey, we Armenians, we can't work together. We're not team players.
Parents, society, educational system, movies we watch, everything just shapes the way we see it, and we start seeing the world using filters.
I have a lot of life stories out there. People who've not decided to do what they want to do, and they all of a sudden they find it. But that curiosity really matters.
You can rise to the occasion, and it's not a challenge anymore because it's easier to go through it.
Everything to me, everything to me. This is also mine, this is also mine. Okay, we privatize this.
What led up to you starting your own thing?
When I'm being asked that question, I just say that yes, Flex changed me, but not myself.
Welcome to Soulful Entrepreneur podcast. I'm your host, Lucy Stepanyan. Today's guest is Magda Markosyan. She's the founder and CEO of MAROG, which is branding and marketing communications agency in Yerevan, Armenia. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here today, Magda.
Hi, Lucy. Thank you for having me here.
So I want to start talking about Flex, which is a one-year exchange program to the US, which both of us took part in, and that's how we know each other as well. You did that when you were 15 or 16 years old, right?
Yeah, I was 15.
15, right. How did that affect you? And has that kind of changed your trajectory as when you look back? Has that affected your career somehow?
That's a really good question. When I look back, apparently I bring that up every other day, an example from Flex experience. I wouldn't say it changed me. I would say it really shaped me the way I was. It made me tougher, maybe, in a sense, because I was 15. Yeah. You know, how it feels to be in a foreign country, and it wasn't like today, we didn't have those connections, we didn't have these messengers, we didn't have these communications with our families, with our friends. We were just away, like really far. And we need to take care of ourselves. So it just toughened up. And we were students who were exploring. When I'm being asked that question, I just say that yes, Flex changed me, but not myself. It just changed the way I would work, I would study. It's just something that shaped me really well.
Yeah. Were you homesick? Because I was super homesick the first, okay, not the first month, but second month, I was like, I need to go home. Like maybe it lasted 10 days, maybe more, but it was really super hard.
It's super weird for me because I never felt homesick until a certain point in my life during the Flex year, and it was towards the end. My mom was asking, "Hey, aren't you homesick? Do you not miss us? You feel like so happy." I was like, I was happy, and I realized why I was so happy, and I wasn't thinking about home and friends at the first time because I knew I was going to come back, and that was probably or maybe the only time I would have that kind of an opportunity to stay and study in the US with a host family, with my US friends, with these experiences around. And to that point, I was mentioning about when I realized I had the choice to stay, I was like, no.
I was actually have a choice to stay.
Yeah.
What? Why didn't I?
So there was this education fair at our high school, and I happened to graduate when I was 16, when my peers were 18 or 19.
Same.
Yeah, I got a diploma, the first exchange student in my high school, and the admissions said that I qualified for a scholarship at Washington University. I was like, oh, wow. And they're like, oh, so you need to fill out your application form. I'm like, what?
Really?
And I was not gonna do this.
What is wrong with you?
I get the scholarship. Yeah, I graduated diploma, but it was something like I was achieving things and I was happy for it. I was like self-sufficient, feeling self-sufficient at the time. But that was not my plan to stay. My plan was to go back, and that's when I felt homesick, like really homesick. I was so homesick. I would call my friends. I would write letters. And the director of my school back in Armenia they chose to hang that letter up on the wall in the school. So that was like a very homesick letter. That's what I call it.
So you missed your family, friends, school, yard, dogs,
everything. And when I came back, eventually, it was the old airport.
Yeah.
You had to step out the airplane
Really dark.
and then step into the building, and there was this really bad smell, and I was like, John, John. I missed that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so weird.
Well, if you had stayed, you probably would have a different career trajectory completely. But then, do you think this 1-year exchange program, like, you completely changed? For me, it was I became probably braver, and I also knew that there are no limits to what I can achieve. Because you see a different perspective. The way that things work here, they're completely different, and they work differently in the States. So I could see that there are just no limits, because if it's different there, it could be different anywhere else, and I can be different. How has that changed you?
I would say I was brave before I went to the US. I was really brave. My classmates know me very well. They describe me that with that specific
Are you a
word.
little gangster?
No, I was actually a good student, but I was everywhere. I was leading projects, things, events.
So same as now.
Yeah, nothing has changed.
Yeah.
But what really changed is that I loved my country back then too, and I loved the class of history, and I was into Armenia. But when I really started valuing my identity, is that point when I realized I had the choice to stay or to come back. That's when I really valued that particular moment, what I am, who I am, and the legacy I'm going to take and, pass on. I can't explain it. I go back in time and I analyze. It's not that I realized at the point and I was so conscious. No, it's not that. But when I go back and analyze all these things, I really understand that made me, rethink everything. Rethink what I was doing in the US, rethink what I'm going to do next. And I was like, heck, I'm going back. And I may have another chance. This is not end of the story. If I choose to go back, I would go back. And I did. And I did.
So
not
you
once.
wanted to have a choice. You didn't want to stay because you got a scholarship. That's amazing.
Right.
If your daughter comes up to you today and she says, Mom, I want to do an exchange program in the US. She's 15. Would you allow her, when she's 15, obviously she's not 15 now, would you allow her to
Don't do it to me.
to the US? No, I'm going to do it to you right in front of the camera.
I would. I would definitely, do it.
Would it be hard for you?
No, I don't think so, because I know it. The fear comes from the unknown.
Yeah.
When you know it, you can be cautious. You can, prevent things. You can be preventive, but not be afraid of letting it go.
Yeah. Okay. That's brave. So that's...
Yeah, maybe. I
think
don't know.
So. Yeah, I think our parents were pretty brave when they let us go to the US when they were 15, especially for here it's men, women, there's a lot of difference, right? But for a girl to go at 15, it's brave.
Yeah, probably. My grandfather actually, he was a communist, socialist person. He was like very into communism, and he hated this capitalist country world.
Okay.
And when he learned that I was going through these competitions, he's like, "You're not gonna go to the U.S. You're not gonna go." I'm like, "Yeah, Grandpa, of course I'm not gonna go. I'm just gonna try myself, And he was. I played around the fact that he really was proud of me because I was an A student throughout all my life. I was successing in sports, in dance, in everything. He would call his friends and say, my granddaughter and this and this and this. He would brag about. He would even make up stuff about me which didn't
Additional.
exist. Yeah. And I played around it. I was like, and I'd be like, Grandpa, this is like a three very difficult phase competition. And I'm among like 4,000 students. Can you imagine? I'm not going to go through. He would be like, how come you're not going to go through? You're going to go through. You're my granddaughter. I'd be like, okay, I'll try. And the first phase went on, and I got selected. And the second phase was the TOEFL. I never took TOEFL tests. That was my second experience, because I failed the first experience in the 8th grade. But the fact that was that I wasn't sure I would pass it. So I went to Grandpa and said, Grandpa, I don't pass this. Definitely I don't, because this is the most difficult part. I didn't take special courses, English courses, and I'm gonna fail. And he'd be like disappointed, like, no, you're gonna go through. Come on. And he was cheering for me. He was sincerely cheering for me. When I passed through the second stage, I went to him and said, he was so happy. He would brag about me with his friends and all that. And the third phase, you remember that, it was simulations,
the interview and
interviews,
the simulation.
And I didn't know what it was. I was just in it. And when I came back
home, your natural leadership skills probably really took off during the simulation, no?
I don't know. I don't even remember that. I just remember that during the interview they asked me, what if I was adopted during this period by a Black American family?
Okay.
I'd be like, okay.
What kind of question is that?
Yeah, I was okay with it. I mean, it was really, it's not that I was taught something. It was not that, maybe, I don't know, I read books, or I just watched a lot of movies, and it was like a natural thing for me. It was like a stupid question, to be honest. And the way I reacted, what is that question? Of course.
Well, I think it's a stupid question for us, and especially now, but back then we lived in a very traditional society, much more traditional than now. And so we didn't see, let's say, I mean, we saw color.
You're right. But I mean, a 15-year-old, it's a teenager. You're asking her if she would, live with a person they don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's a black or white.
Exactly.
If it's a good person. And how would you know? I mean,
that's true.
That's a stupid question.
I completely agree with that. That's for sure. What led up to you starting your own thing? I know you were always active, NGOs, projects right after graduation, right? But what led up to, what were the events that led up to you deciding, okay, I'm going to start my own thing, and then it's going to be so super successful as it is now?
I wouldn't say it was planned or I was dreaming about it. That would be totally, untrue. But again, referring to my grandpa, because he has been a leader throughout his entire life, he didn't have anything. He started off with, as he liked to say, with one pair of shoes and one pair of trousers, and that's all he had. And they lived in one room with the entire family. But later on in his life, he achieved a lot of things, and he was managing manufacturing companies in the Soviet Armenia. He was given all these credits and medals. I have that. I keep them.
Oh, that's so
with
sweet.
Me. Yeah. And once he found me practicing my signature when I was in the 7th grade or something. And he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm practicing my signature so that when I become a director, nobody can copy my signature. But I didn't think of it, it was just, it was
like
just
a child.
Yeah, it was not like, oh, I'm going to become a businesswoman or something. No, I was dreaming of becoming a doctor, to be honest.
Okay. Interesting turn of events. Branding, doctor.
But the thing is, doctor or a lawyer, that was my choice. But I didn't have much time when, you remember how it was, like we came back to Armenia and we had only a few days to practice for our admissions. So,
okay, that's a huge failure, by the way, I think. Because you push the kids, they're just like coming back, they have to adapt back to Armenia first, and then they're taking this exam, and then you have to start university right after, and you have to choose any profession, which was stupid, I think.
It was, but I wouldn't regret about it because, on the other hand, it's stupid on one side. We had the choice. We could stay and we could graduate from our homeschool,
Yeah.
and we could do the things that we wanted to do. I mean, it was a choice. I really had the choice, and I chose not to do that because all my classmates graduated, and I would have to spend an entire year with some people I
Unknown
didn't
people.
know. That would be a torture. That would be torture because that wouldn't be my environment.
Yeah.
And that's not why I went to the US, to come back to face another year, another struggle. No, I just wanted to get it through. I had only like 20 days to practice math, Armenian, and English, because that's what I did to be admitted to the Yarmouth State University, the Faculty of Economics.
Economics, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I ended up there. That's when it started, and how it started. It was by chance. I was working in the All Armenian Fund as a project manager, as also a digital marketing manager, because I was managing the marketing projects there as well.
So it's after graduation?
I was like 20, 21 when I got the job offer from there. Before I was working in a different sector. It was a filmmakers association, South Caucasian organization that was located in 3 countries, the regional countries, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia. And I was the coordinator of Armenian projects. It took a year, then I stepped into my other position in the Himnaram. And I was just working there, enjoying my work, and a friend of mine who then became my business partner, she called me. She was working in Artsakh at the point as a commercial director, and she said, hey, there is this job opportunity or a consulting opportunity, I don't even know what it is. I want you to go and meet the person who's interested in this project. And they were doing some franchising project. And she remembered that I did something related to franchising back in the US. So it just pinked to her that I could do the right person to do that. And then she says, you know what? And I'm not going to stay here for long. If it turns out a big project, I may come back and we can do it together. And that was something fascinating. It was an adventure. We started with an adventure, I'd say, because we didn't plan to start a company.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's another story.
Well, it is an
We started together, and along the way, we decided to stay together as a company and grow together. Throughout 1 year, we already had about 8 to 9 teammates.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you didn't even plan to start a company. It was
Nope.
just like, let's do a consulting project, and then it turned into a company.
Yeah, we just saw an opportunity, and we saw that we're good working together.
Yeah.
And we stayed together.
Nice. Do you still work with her? Is she
No, she stepped out of the business a few years ago, in 2018, and we chose friendship over business, so to say.
I was going to ask you, because I have been in business with people and like some friends or close people. It's super tough to be friends and also be in business together, because at some point there's just boundaries blur. And then,
Sure.
yeah, we had a lot of fights and a lot of issues with some people where let's say I would do business with. It's not fights, but there was this tension. Okay, it wasn't really fights, but I felt tension. It was hard to talk about it because we're also friends or like acquaintances, or not acquaintances, like sometimes family members, Was it hard for you to be friends and be a co-founder?
No.
No, okay. I was expecting yes.
No, that's a total truth. It was sometimes hard working together because both of us are, you have character, have leadership style, and the style is different, but that also helped throughout the way because our styles kind of complemented each other. So whenever, I had made a mistake, she'd cover up for me. Whenever she had the mistake, I'd cover up for her, and we were back to back. The other thing is that before starting a business with her, I never think, even I had the decision in my mind that I would never work with a friend consciously understanding that I don't want to go through these things that you're describing.
Yeah.
But I knew that there are certain people that I'd do business with because it's just a gut feeling.
Yeah.
The thing is that I convinced her to start the business together. She'd do the project, but she'd be like, okay, let's do the project and that's it.
That's it.
But I'd convinced her to take on a bigger opportunity to start a business because she was afraid that we're going to lose friendship. But I had this gut feeling that she and I would do this like in a right way because she was straightforward. I was straightforward. We knew our ways. We would never, talk on the side to each other or about each other. We would, talk in the face.
Yeah.
And maybe that would be, painful sometimes,
Yeah.
but that was right. And you wouldn't feel that, there is a feeling when you have inside, oh, I didn't say that. Oh, I should have said that. Oh, this is not the right way I would word it.
Yeah.
I never had, you could ask her if she had that feeling or not, but I never had that because we were always this straightforward. Even if we had that feeling, we would cut it right off. Like yesterday with some, like an episode together, and then today we talk about it and deal with it.
That's good. And I think I've known you from different places as well, from Global Village also, and I've had the opportunity to be mentored by you to a certain degree, and we've had a lot of discussions as well. She's a super great mentor, by the way, if you need one.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sure you're not going to have time, but hopefully. But I've always known you as an emotionally mature person, someone who is, I don't know, you're just able to navigate through emotions really well. I'm very emotional, so I can be like out of place and sometimes borderline psychotic. I learned how to navigate those emotions with time. But even when I've known you 10 years ago, you've seemed to have this emotional maturity. Is that something you've worked on consciously, or it's part of your personality?
Let me think. I don't know, but what I can recall is one of my favorite books is Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he talks about paradigm shifts and that a person can always choose between doing this and that.
Yep.
And there's a quote that says, between action and reaction, there's always time.
Love it.
I felt it always, that it's true, but when I read it, it just stick to me like always. It just with me. Even sometimes when I want to kill someone, like literally slap him in the face.
Taxi drivers. Sometimes.
No, I really don't want to do it, but because it's like, maybe it's a trained thing. I always listen. I try to listen, even if it's like shouting and yelling and screaming, all type of things, maybe not even connected to each other, but I try to hear the person. I try to understand the situation. I try to grasp the zoom out picture so that I can reflect to it. Otherwise, if I just reflect on just one certain, episode or just one certain word or an action, it wouldn't take me anywhere. I mean, I just lose time because it might be even more tense and tense and tense. But in this case, I just feel that that's a respect for myself. That's a respect for the person I'm talking to or I'm having business with or any situation.
So you take a minute between, let's say something happened, someone said something stupid, outright, outrageous, let's say for you, right? You take a minute, you observe the situation, you try to understand rationally what's going on.
Of course.
And then you make the decision how to react.
Yeah. Sometimes I do it right away because that's also a trained thing. Maybe you've known the person for so long that you already understand what's going on and you just need to cut it off right there, rather on the spot. But usually what I do is take a minute a day, sometime. So it depends what kind of situation it is, to come to a more smart solution or to reaction. Maybe that situation doesn't need any reaction. Maybe somebody's just, having the moment. Let them have the moment. That's it.
Well, that takes a lot of self-control and self-discipline, I guess, because you have to, sometimes when things happen, we are subconsciously, not even subconsciously, unconsciously on an autopilot, we react to things because we are used to reacting to certain triggers in a certain way. So you don't even observe yourself from a side. But what you're saying, it seems like you're putting yourself out of your body, you're observing the situation from the
Yeah.
side, and then you're deciding, making a, that's a trait of a highly conscious person.
I love the way you put it. I really sometimes feel that I'm not inside my body. I sometimes feel that I'm outside of
Wow.
it. Sometimes I feel that I'm looking at myself and the things happening around me, and I'm kind of watching something. It's interesting for me how it's gonna go, how it's gonna develop.
Yeah.
So probably I have the curiosity, and I know that a lot of people don't have that curiosity, or they've killed the curiosity within themselves while growing up.
Yeah.
Because when we're children, we're curious to the moon and back, okay? But when we're grown up, it seems that, oh, we're grown up, so we need to act mature, be, you know, this and this and this. No. If you're losing that curiosity, then I don't know. It's sad to be not curious.
Yeah.
Honestly, I believe that you need to be curious towards yourself. You need to be curious around your surrounding, your team, your family. It's a curious process. Even if you're frustrated, maybe you're happy, be curious about it.
Yeah.
Explore, because you don't know what's to come. And aren't you interested? You're
Yeah.
interested, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we also need to understand ourselves well enough to know what interests us, because when we are kids, you're right, naturally we have certain inclinations and we understand the world in a certain way, but then it's killed out of us, like by parents, society, educational system, movies we watch, everything just shapes the way we see it, and we start seeing the world using filters. Filters and lenses specifically that distort the actual view, and we forget who we are inside, and there's this disconnect between the outer world and the inner world, between ourselves and our inner world. I don't know, I'm going esoteric right now, but anyway, what I'm trying to say is, what you've done is you've kind of got in touch with your inner child, and you were able to bring out the interests that you have and pursue those.
Yeah.
So when you are actually doing your work, you're having fun. Is that right?
Oh yeah. Not all the time, but
Yeah.
most of the time I'm doing it with conscious feeling of satisfaction, even if it's like the toughest work that I'm doing. And when I talk to my team, I say, guys, our work is 20% creative and fun and whatever, and 80% is consistent work,
Yeah.
which includes a lot of technical aspects, a lot of research, a lot of things that you wouldn't want to do yourself.
Yeah.
But for the sake of this 20%, you should focus on that 20% that gives you the satisfaction.
Butterflies in the stomach feeling.
Yeah. And then this 80% would be something like a training.
Yeah.
Like, well, I would always bring this example when Serena Williams was asked, what is happiness for you? She was asked on the camera and she didn't hesitate. I don't know if she was asked that question before the interview or not. I don't know that one. But she didn't hesitate. She said, discipline. So what is discipline? You have a certain goal and you're going towards that goal. When you do little bit a day, little bit an hour, little bit a week, you're getting closer and closer to your eventual goal, right? Yeah. And when you do that, you have that feeling of doing something useful, powerful, helpful, I don't know, for whoever. And when you do that, you kind of fill it up in yourself as well. And when you get to the point whether you fail or succeed, you have this relief. Yeah. Because you've done that, and while you were doing that, you were getting there. And that's I cannot compare that to another thing.
I agree.
In fact, our first slogan for MAROG was the key to success is consistency.
Yeah.
And that's very close to what discipline is.
Yeah, for sure.
Like waking up at a certain time, having breakfast at a certain time, doing reading at a certain time. It doesn't matter if you do it like all these things, all, scheduled and all that. But for example, you can have a goal for a week, not for a day, for it not to be so tough. You're not a sports person if you're not, into sports that much. But I believe that everyone can have this feeling of happiness, because happiness sometimes is an emotional state, like, wow, that's something. It's not
great happens.
Yeah, it's not really happiness. It's kind of
Excitement.
Yeah. But
Satisfaction, maybe.
yeah, but when you're really happy, when you're confident, you're calm, you're in harmony with yourself, with the people that you love. That's what it's happiness. But to achieve that, you need to work. And sometimes we fail at it.
Yeah, I love it. And I think when you mentioned the metaphor, like the sports metaphor here, and I think you are still training. You're training for life. Life is tough and sometimes it's challenging. And so some people just go through it and then they're challenged by life and then they have to rise to the occasion.
Right.
And that can be really difficult to do when you're not prepared. When you yourself challenge yourself and you develop the discipline of waking up at a certain time when you decided, not someone else decided
Right.
for you, but you've decided to do that. You wake up at a certain time, you do certain things for the sake of something bigger than yourself. You train, you become tougher. So when the challenge happens, you can rise to the occasion, and it's not a challenge anymore because it's easier to go through it. And so I always say life challenges us because we don't challenge ourselves. And then when we challenge ourselves, life just steps back because we do it because what's the ultimate purpose of life?
Yeah.
For me, at least, it's growth and development and just growing as
Always.
a person, as a profession, personally, professionally, and in all other aspects that we live.
True, especially nowadays when you can easily be substituted by
AI,
technology.
ChatGPT.
Well, yes,
Well,
we're
yeah.
laughing, but certain people are actually exchanged for these technologies. You need to understand that life is just, it's now. The past is past. The future is yet to come or not.
We don't
We
know
don't
that.
know.
Absolutely.
The life is now, and you need to. It's not just about having fun, having cocktail around the pool or the beach, or having some Instagram, shootings. It's not about that because it's for others to see.
Yeah.
But do you really feel happy when you're doing that? What makes
Exactly.
you happy? That's where curiosity comes. When you shut it down, it's really hard to find the place, the work, the things that you love to do, or even the person you would want to spend life with, because that curiosity is really actually driving you to explore and see what's out there. With a limited choices, you would never know if you're good at this or this or that. So for those who are in their early, 20s, I really push them.
30s.
Some people in their 30s, they're not really decided what are they going to do. And it's okay. It's okay.
I'm still searching, honestly.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't know what I'm going to do in 10 years. If somebody asks me, what are you going to do in 10 years? Yeah, I have some ideas. But to be really honest, I don't. I don't know if anyone knows. So that's something we can skip. And as I said, it's now. The important thing is now. I know a woman, she's very close to me and to our family. She started her real business, her real doing, when she was in her 50s.
Nice. Love it.
In
Something
her
to live up to.
50s. And she was so shy. She was like, you wouldn't expect that from her because and I don't think anybody encouraged her except her daughter and myself. We're like, oh yeah, let's do it. What can we help you with? And that was really encouraging to see that. And I have like a lot of life stories out there. People who've not decided to do what they want to do, and they all of a sudden they find it. But that curiosity really matters.
Yeah.
You need to be curious. You need to be childish. When you're happy, be happy like a child.
Yeah.
Not like,
Yeah, I'm gonna be an adult. Like, what are you talking about? Having
yeah.
fun while you're working? What is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
No.
it's difficult because I've been through that too, especially after the 2020, the losses that we faced, everyone with their individual, personal, family losses or friends, the war and everything. For me too, I'm not talking from a soft side, but you need to learn to feel that present moment. The life is now. And you're not going to do any good to someone you love when you're not good. So a little bit of curiosity, a little bit of selfishness
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah.
Take care of your health, take care of your well-being, mental and physical well-being, and try to enjoy as much as you can.
Yeah. I think there's a saying that says, if you make yourself better every day, you're making the world better. Because think about it, if you're making yourself better, and every one of us takes the responsibility to improve ourselves, and both mentally, professionally, personally, in all aspects of life, if everyone does that, becomes a bit more conscious, a bit more mindful what they're doing, how they're doing things, the world is going to change itself. Because if you can't change, I can't change you, Magda. I can't come and tell you how to do things and what to do. I can change myself, become a bit better.
You can change your attitude.
Yeah.
You can change the way you think of me. You can change
Yep.
the way you treat me. You can change the way you feel about it all.
Yeah.
And what makes you better.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. And I think it's also important to think about the now, and how you are, what you're doing now is super important, the process. So for instance, if I'm working on something and I don't enjoy this work, I do it with, disgust to a certain extent, the result is going to be the same.
Yeah.
It's always like that. Sometimes I had to, do something out of the discipline and really work hard on something, but then I didn't enjoy it because I didn't let myself go and be like, okay, you're in the now. This is what matters now. The result was as crappy as the process.
You know the saying, skin in the game?
Yeah.
So if you're really putting your skin in the game, if you want the result, when I'm talking about when you really are going for that, it's not you have to do it. If you're really going, if your goal is to get here, but you need to do certain things to get there, and these certain things are not very enjoyable. But when you have the skin in the game and you're in it, believe me, what you're doing is gonna make you even feel better.
Yeah.
That's the discipline part of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you're doing because you're realizing you're consciously going to your goal. That makes you happy, satisfied. It's a different level of happiness and satisfaction.
Yeah.
It's not like, wow, yeah, great, let's do it, dancing and singing. No, it's like conscious happiness, conscious harmony, conscious. It's about self-awareness, actually.
Yeah.
I think people need to really be self-aware and always do that. Like always work on themselves first than others.
I love
If
that.
you want to make impact, start from what you can change within yourself. And I'm not talking about change. I'm talking about like this constant work on yourself. If you're a little bit better, like you said, every other day, then you can impact.
Yeah.
Everyone has its own area of impact. It can be small, it can be big, it can be bigger, but it can really matter.
Yeah, even if it's within the house, within the
yeah.
small house and community, then it becomes bigger. And yeah, I think definitely. And what you mentioned before, this observation, the ability to observe yourself and the situation, like coming out of your body and almost looking at things from the outside in, I think that's what self-awareness is itself.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think there's this esoteric writer, Gurdjieff. He's a Russian Armenian.
I know him, yeah.
You know him? Okay. He talks about self-observation. He talks about self-awareness. And he actually said, like, it's super difficult to find people who are self-aware because we lie to ourselves a lot. But he...
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? But you need to be conscious about it.
For sure. The more you try to practice this ability to self-observe, the better it's going to get.
Right. Right.
Love it. You work on MAROG, and you also have projects outside of that. And there are, I think, a lot of projects. You have creative projects, you have community building projects, you have startups that you're working on. What is something that you're working on right now that you're most passionate about, that you just love working on and feel excited about?
So apparently I love marketing and branding.
Really? We didn't know that.
But to be honest, really, the projects that make, I don't want to sound very patriotic or, you know, I don't want to be sounding fake, but really, when we work on a project that relates to Armenia, the development of Armenia, whatever it is, it really makes me personally feel more useful for the country, because apart from that, I do enjoy my work. Even on the commercial projects, I find this
spark.
Yeah, the spark, the tingling thing, and I just stick to it. And it really, I love what I'm doing, and I love what I do, and I do what I love. Yeah. That's the thing.
And you do it well.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
That's true.
We can always do better.
Sure.
That's what I believe. I've started several companies, I think 6 or 7. I've been a co-founder of various companies, organizations.
6 or 7
yeah.
companies.
But
what the hell?
MAROG is the first one, and I'm still with it. But I want it to grow because we've got to a ceiling at some point. We've worked with large companies, international organizations, government.
You worked on WCIT in 2021,
yeah,
right?
in 2020,
I loved
2019.
2019.
Yeah, it was in 2019.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it was a big challenge. And at the same year, we were doing other big projects, again, related to Armenia. It was a big festival event. So now it's time for us to grow, and what I personally am involved in right now, I consult several organizations, and I cooperate with them around regional businesses and capacity building projects. And I'm also an expert with one of our partners. They're doing something very similar to what I was planning to do this year. It's resolving the regional development from the economic and educational standpoint of view by bringing capacity building and business consulting together, so that we resolve the issues of businesses not being marketed well in the regions of Armenia.
Yep.
And so the youth wants to stay in the regions further and not migrate to other countries, to the city.
Yep.
Our country is just overwhelmed with urbanization because most of the population is centralized in Yerevan, Gyumri, and Vanadzor. And it bothers me because by my first profession, I'm an economist, and I realized how that can impact the economy overall. And we can't grow by tourism only. Tourism is a great driving force for the economy, but it's one side of the economy. The other side is production. Another side is management and services, and they need to be developed in the regions as well. They're capable businesses in the regions. I've seen them, I've talked to them, I've mentored them or consulted them, and they're capable of scaling. I'm not talking about like worldwide scaling, I'm just talking about a certain level, but they can bring value, they can contribute to the growth of the GDP. But if you look at the top taxpayers, you probably wouldn't find, except for miners, you wouldn't find any business that is top taxpayer in the regions.
Yeah. Most of them are in IT, right? Probably the largest taxpayers.
Some of them are, others are mining.
Yeah, mining.
Yeah.
Mentioned.
Gambling.
Nice, amazing.
Yeah.
Something to feel so proud about.
So I think that it's time has come for us not to just do projects, but to contribute to the overall development, to the capacity building in terms of marketing, branding, PR, and all these capacities that we're capable of, passing on or teaching or mentoring or being involved in a certain way.
So those are the projects, like community building projects that you're working on right now.
Community building is something I do with our NGO. I am also a co-founder there. It's called 9Zen.
9Zen, I love it. I should have asked you to join.
We will.
Okay.
We're not that public at this point. We're preparing for a festival that's yet to be announced.
Nice.
So what we do is community building. We help communities be stronger, be bigger, work with their community members better, be engaged with their community members, get one community with another to talk to each other.
Yeah.
I don't know if your U.S. Audience would feel for this, because I don't think there is this type of problem in the U.S. I haven't seen it, at least, because the culture in the U.S. of unions, associations, any clubs even, it's established. And in Armenia, we have this situation when, after the collapse of the USSR, massive this privatization started of properties, of factories, of this manufacturing companies. Everything was privatized, but with no vision of what's going to happen next. Okay, everything to me, everything to me. This is also mine, this is also mine. Okay, we privatize this. But I've seen, rarely I've seen people who've done anything to these properties, except for, building residential buildings or
hotels.
Yeah, basics. Because I'm not blaming them, because that was an opportunity they took. I'm just saying that was a reason that we kind of were stuck in economy. We were stuck for a time, and when that happened, it seemed that Soviet Union is a form of this community thinking people, but really, face the fact, it was collapsed. Nobody was community thinking anymore. So it was not a mindset. It was top-down, pushed system. It was not bottom-up. It was not about, let's get together to resolve an issue. It was like, hey, you're going to work together. When you do this, you're going to get that and that and that. So that's systematic, okay? And I'm talking about, it's not revolution, evolution, when two people realize that they're stronger together, when competitors realize they can work together to have bigger market. In this country, it's possible, because we're very small.
Yeah.
We can't compete with China. We can't compete with India. We can't compete even with Georgia at this point. Our neighbor country. They're way ahead. We need to start working together, and we need to build these small communities and make these communities work together. And I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm seeing already the results of these cooperations, of these collaborations, and I really am confident that we really do not believe in ourselves. We say, hey, we Armenians, we can't work together. We're not team players. But I really believe that nobody's really tried that hard and consistently over time to say that.
I think it's, I love the idea of community building, and I think it's ties back to what you said before, just capacity building. In order to grow as a country and to compete with countries like China or other countries, we need capabilities. And there is this economist, his Ricardo Hausmann. I went to one of his lectures at the World Bank, and he's the head of the Harvard Growth Lab, if I'm not mistaken. He talks about country that is competitive, and I might not be super correct in what I'm saying, but the idea, you'll get the idea. It talks about capabilities that a country has as letters, and this capabilities is human resource. So it's the know-how that people have, which is least transferable. So you can transfer technology, you can use the same code as you use in the US, but the know-how, for instance, is not transferable. The person actually has to work on the project. So when we talk about community building for the sake of economic development, we also need those letters, those capabilities that we need to put in together. And this is where I think we could think about integrating diaspora and the diasporan Armenians into this community building projects and just adding the know-how, because they've worked in projects in the US and China and Singapore and whatnot, and they have the know-how. We just need to increase the number of letters that we have, meaning the capabilities, capacities, the know-how, and we need to also make sure we understand what we're building. Because the more letters you have, the more sophisticated product you can create, and then this product can compete in the international market.
That's true. What we do, really, we go the disruptive way, because we don't have the time to do a feasibility study. And can you imagine what would it take to do a feasibility study?
Oh, years.
Yeah. So we're not doing that. We're just going out there. We're seeing people. We're hearing problems. We know the solutions. If we know the solutions, we get people together. We say, hey, you guys can help each other. So while this is happening, these capabilities can be formed along. So it's kind of, we see it as a decentralized process rather than a centralized one, because we've seen the centralized failed. So we believe in the decentralized, because, you know, maybe it's not us who's going to do it. Maybe it's somebody else. And what we are doing is actually helping to others to also to emerge from these communities and maybe take over or the lead on other things, you know. So it's not an ambition to, you know, to have this project to ourselves. It's rather finding these hotspots and connecting them. Also helping these hotspots to grow bigger. We've had some successful projects over the past couple of years, and our focus is on that. If somebody from our communities who we work with wants to do another project with somebody else, we're happy to help there too. So that's about it. That's about community building. If they need a branding or a marketing campaign to grow their own community, to have more members, I don't know, to get more funding or whatever, we help them. And we help and step away until we are needed again. That's what we basically do. It's really hard to, you know, describe in this during this one podcast and throughout this few minutes.
We need a deeper dive into this whole thing.
But basically, just to zoom out, you can imagine, like, this is Armenia, and there are these hotspots, and we're not saying we are the hotspots. No, we're not. We're just trying to make them bigger, and so that also they kind of, you know, touch each other. Start working together on certain things, because you and I cannot have everything in common. You and I can have one or two things in common, right? As citizens, as part of the society, we always say, hey, we're not a team, we can work together. Again, I'm saying, I don't believe that any system or any government or any entity has tried it well enough and long enough to say that. We haven't had state for over centuries.
True.
And all of a sudden we have this and we don't know what to do with it. Isn't that natural? This is natural process. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but we need to understand that after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and Soviet Union wasn't, we were in a sovereign state. We weren't an independent state. We were a part of the Soviet Union. And then after it collapsed, the system collapsed, and everyone was, you know, like confused. They didn't know what to do. My entire family, everyone was engineer. Nobody needed engineers at the time. Now engineers are in trend again. But that's something that happened not because of this. We just need to face the fact and understand what's the way to, you know, develop, get together and grow together. There is a point in time we will hold on to each other's hands. And that's going to be around one or two common things, because Everyone is different. Everyone have their own interest, benefits, and you can make person to work with you unless you have something in common.
Yeah.
So this is about it. We need to do this community building. That's what we envision, okay? So we do this decentralized. We don't have any power over that. We help them to do that.
So you're kind of like a platform that creates
And
the fertile ground for for
you hear me.
Yeah, I do.
We're on it.
We're on it. The Zen. I love it. I have a last question for you, Magda. If you were to die tomorrow, God forbid, what would you want your legacy to be?
My legacy. I want my kid to live in an independent state, self-aware, with a firm identity, not confused, not wandering around.
She's a girl or boy?
She's a girl.
No, I know. Not wondering if she's a girl or a boy.
No, I'm talking about identity in general, especially referring to national identity. I think, if I was to die tomorrow, I won't have much time. So
to think about it. But would you say that you did everything you could throughout your life? Because, we don't think about death, right? Death, we think about something that's never going to happen or happen sometime
Of course,
in
I
the
could
future.
do more. Of course, I could do more, but it's not. Life is not about it, just that. So life, it's complex. You need to play around. You need to find time for everything, work, family. And if you have a child or children, that's a separate thing. It's not just family. You're not done with family. You also have to find time to spend with your kid. Other things, your hobby, your other projects, like non-profit, everything has its place. If you're asking me if I could do better on having an independent state and growing my daughter to be self-aware and well aware of her identity, I'd say yes, because I also have these things on the plate, and I'm not regretting, or I'm not saying, oh, I haven't done much enough. No, I'm a small drop in the ocean. I do whatever I can. I try not to feel guilty of what I'm not doing or of what I'm doing not enough, because that doesn't get me get to places I want to be. And the place I want to be is to be striving as a person who does business in Armenia, as a person who grows a new generation. I have only one kid, but others have like 4 or 5 children. I have friends who have 4 children, and I'm really proud of them. And they're managing to do everything. They're into their work, they're into their children, family. They're also doing business or a side project, and that's great. People can do that as long as they enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I was going to say one thing, though. You're not a drop in the ocean. You're absolutely a wave, because you make waves. You make communities grow together. You make organizations. You create definitely a wave, if not a tsunami.
Thank you. I say I'm a drop in the ocean, but together we are the ocean.
Love it. Thank you so much, Magda.
Thank you, Lucy, for having me. It was a pleasure.
It was absolutely.
And good luck to your podcast.
Thank you. I hope it will stick.
I will.